What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Conserve Ohio. I'm Ben. Today we are not hunting, but instead we're going to go out in the woods, do some scouting, and get our saddle set up. Maybe look for some deer in the trees, just really get comfortable with our saddle setup before hunting season. Something I encourage you all to do. So we're going to climb up in a tree, get our bow set up, get the camera set up, and do some glassing, and then we'll just go from there, see where it takes us. But come along, sit back, relax, enjoy, and let's get rocking. So before we get out there, I just wanted to kind of show you what I'm working with this year. So obviously chest rig, pack, dart and consequence in the back. You can see I've got 3 of the 3-step climbing sticks. Not gonna lie, I don't like them. I ordered them thinking, oh, I can get higher in the tree. They're a much more hassle than any height I would gain, but we're gonna roll with them for the time being and just make do with them, right? I've got the platform in the back as well, and then I've got some water, first aid kit, camera arm, knife, some more camera equipment, and things like that in the pack. Of course, I've got a tourniquet right here. Highly recommend you guys get a tourniquet. You know, you just never know, and it's right here, easily accessible. And you know, if you're working with knives especially, you know, you could be gutting a deer, it's late at night, your hand slips, boom, you just sliced your leg open with nothing to do. So keep a tourniquet with me at all times. It's just one of those common sense things that I think a lot of guys don't do because you think, well, I'll never use it. I don't want to use it, but if I have to, it's right here, ready to go. But anyways, that's about what I'm working with. So let's head out, let's find a tree, and let's get set up. You know, Les Stroud, who is also known as Survivor Man, always says, no matter where you go, you'll always find trash. Trash. We have found our tree. A little bit of a weird slant, but it straightens up as it goes up. So let's climb it. So we made it into the tree, and there's actually a couple bucks over across the way here. A couple really nice bucks actually, which is interesting because I haven't really seen many or much buck activity lately. So that's a great sign. You know, they've been changing their habits recently. As they do, right? That's what happens this time of the year. You know, they're moving to their fall ranges, and you might not see them as much. But there's 2, and I actually bumped a buck as I was walking back here. So that's a great sign. But anyways, so I'm up in the saddle now. It took me a long time to get in this saddle. When you're self-filming, it takes, I guess you can probably take the time it would normally take you and then go ahead and double it, and that's about where I was sitting. But we've got everything set up. You know, I'm just, like I said, this is the first time I will be hunting out of the saddle, and I really don't know what I'm doing. So that's why I'm out here today. I kind of just want to get everything oriented right, you know, get comfortable, see, you know, where the camera's going to be, where my bow's going to be. Definitely, obviously, I'm left-handed, so my bow's going to go on the right side of the tree. And, you know, just otherwise, just kind of just getting comfortable in the saddle. It's not uncomfortable by any means. In fact, it's quite comfortable. You know, that's a big complaint with saddles, is they're not really that comfortable, but I feel right at home here. And you know, you can always lean against the tree, take some weight off your feet, which honestly here I could sit like this all day. But you know, it's really not that bad. I'll try to get you kind of a wider view here, but yeah, see, this is me standing, and then here we're just leaning against the tree right here. So not awful. I don't really have any complaints. I will say one of the harder parts about doing this is just all the ropes you're dealing with, right? You're dealing with a lot of cordage here, and it kind of gets tangled up, especially being new and not used to it. So that's one thing I'm definitely gonna have to work on. But really, like, you know, the fact that I can just kind of swing around and you can keep the tree between the deer and yourself, right? So that's a really cool thing. Also just feel safer, right? You know, if you do it the right way, there's never a time when you're not attached to the tree. You know, you have your tether, and then you have your linesman rope, right? So you really should always be attached to the tree. If you're not, then you did something wrong, and it's your own fault if you fall. But you know, it is hard to get used to being held up by thin ropes, but obviously they're rated. It doesn't matter what the thickness is. But overall, I think this will be a great setup. So I have my bow here, right? Obviously I would have my bow hanging probably right here, just right up against the tree. Just kind of wanted to see what it was like to draw while I'm out here. I did actually bring a target down, so I got a target set up, so we can try drawing out of this thing. Lots of, you know, I can go back here, and then go all the way up and around. Yeah, I don't mind. That's not horrible. You know, it's gonna take some getting used to. What I see a lot of guys do is when they got a weak side deer, kind of do one of these and just stand up against the tree. That's gonna be tough. That's, you know, it's just a lot of cordage to deal with, like I was saying before. So again, it's all just one big learning curve for me. But it's fun. It's a fun experience, and yeah, so I'm gonna just keep on scouting. We're gonna kind of hang up in this tree for a while here, just take a look around. I haven't really, you know, I've walked through the woods this year, but I haven't really been able to you know, just sit and watch for a while. So I think that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna kind of hang out here, watch, and if I see anything, I will let you know. But yeah. One thing I'm doing or trying to do is get better at marking good locations, and the way I do that is just on Onyx, but you could do it on your Maps app, but I do like Onyx because it gives me property lines, and the property I have permission on now does butt up against somebody else that I don't have permission on, and it's kind of weird lines. So being in Onyx helps me just to look, but you could even go to like the auditor's website, right? But what I'm doing here is, so you can see that's where I'm at right now. You can see right there, right? You can see that it says add waypoint. Sorry, I don't want you to see where I'm at. So all I'm gonna do, add waypoint, and we'll just title this. I always leave the date and time, and then I'll just go to, I'll just say, what do we want to call this? Maple spot. We'll just put in tree stand, because obviously I'm not putting one up, but it's close enough. And I'll save it. And then you can see there, but now I just added that waypoint right to that. So now I've got this saved, so I'll be able to look and see like this was a good spot. I can add pictures to this, so it's a really handy feature on the Onyx app. I've actually seen quite a few deer. They've just been way off. And I think they probably saw me or heard me, or smelled me, more than likely smelled me, right? Because I doused myself in bug spray before I came out here, because I'd rather spook the deer right now than get eaten alive by mosquitoes. But a lot of deer. It's been really cool the past couple days, so the movement has really picked up. I've probably got 30 pictures on trail cams this morning, so movement's good. That's good, and you know, you can tell they're shifting right now, which is right on schedule. One helpful pointer, at least for me, when you have a large, wide open field that, you know, has a lot to look at. Steve Vernella talked about this, right? So this isn't my advice, this is Steve's advice. But when you're glassing or, you know, using your binoculars, just looking, always look right to left, because in our minds we're used to reading left to right, and your brain tends to skip over things that way. But if you go slower and you go right to left, you will usually pick up things that you otherwise wouldn't if you're going left to right. So anyways, take it or leave it. Well, it's getting late, so I'm about to climb down. So the mount was hard. Let's see how the dismount is. Not really looking forward to this, but gotta get down. Alright, so by some miracle, we made it out of the tree alive. All jokes aside though, that was an interesting experience. It was definitely a challenge to get the camera up there and get everything situated, but it also was my first time doing that, so I fully expect to get more comfortable with it. Probably gonna do this a few more times before the season opens up. You know, otherwise it's not gonna be pretty. So definitely gonna practice this, maybe set out to do this once a week until I get real comfortable with it. But you know, once I was up in the tree, really comfortable. The saddle part of it is simple. It's gonna take getting used to, especially shooting out of it. You know, I sent a few arrows through the bow just while sitting up there, you know, but that feels fine. It's definitely just gonna be the getting the camera up there and self-filming that's gonna be a little bit of a challenge, but I like a challenge. Anyways, that is gonna wrap up today's video. If you have any questions, any advice, any tips, leave them down in the comments below. I'd really appreciate that. And yeah, make sure you keep conserving whatever state you live in. Let's really conserve the whole United States, and I'll keep conserving Ohio. All right, I'll see you later.